Hi, welcome to High Road. My name's Andrew, and in today's video you're going to learn how to record an acoustic guitar into Pro Tools using a guitar lead and a microphone. This video is for complete beginners, so if you've never used Pro Tools before, I'm going to quickly show you how to open it up and create a new session. So obviously we go to Pro Tools, click on that, and we open it up. So while that's loading, let's talk a little bit about microphone placement. Now there's lots of ways you can mic an acoustic guitar. This is just a beginner tutorial, so I'm not going to overload you with information. Essentially just put the microphone where you think it sounds good through your headphones and you'll be fine. Let's plug the guitar lead in as well. Okay, so this is where we create a new session. So I'm going to call mine Recording Acoustic Guitar. Down here we have extra choices, so we're going to choose Wave, we're going to choose 16-bit, 44.1, and we also should choose the location for where we're saving this session. If you're using Pro Tools first, you don't really need to worry about this, it saves it to the cloud, but in this case I've got a folder here called How to Record an Acoustic Guitar, which I'll use to put my session in. Alright, so this is what a blank session looks like in Pro Tools when you first open it up. In front here we've got the edit window, which is a bit like using a tape recorder, and behind that we have the mix window, which is like using a mixer. So first of all we're going to create two tracks. So go to the track menu, press new, and we're going to type in the number 2. We want 2 mono tracks. The reason we're not using a stereo track is because we're essentially recording 2 mono sources, so it makes more sense to use 2 mono tracks. Okay, now if yours doesn't look the same as mine, don't panic. I'll show you how to get it to look this way. Sometimes when you first open Pro Tools, you don't have the input-output column there. So if we go to the View menu and go to Edit Window Views, just got to make sure that this thing here called I/O is ticked. If it's not there, just turn it back on. That's where you choose the inputs for each track. So in this case, Pro Tools has set up my default settings correctly. I've got input 1 for track 1 and input 2 for track 2. So now the inputs in Pro Tools match the way I've got my inputs set up on my recording interface. I'm going to name those tracks as well. So audio 1, I'll just click where it says audio 1 and retype guitar lead. And for audio 2, I'm going to retype that as guitar mic. Right, now I'm going to arm these tracks. So press those little red buttons on the side, and now these tracks are armed and ready to record. So if I hit my guitar right now, we can see that I've got some levels. I'm going to click over to the mix window to see them more clearly. Now currently my levels are actually pretty good, but if yours are too low or too high, you may have a problem. So let's talk about how to set your audio levels. Over here on my audio interface, you can see that I've got my guitar lead plugged into input 1 and I've got my microphone plugged into input 2. These two knobs here control the volume of those two inputs. So if I turn my guitar lead up too much, let's see what that looks like in Pro Tools. So you see this little red dot here, that indicates that my track has peaked or distorted. So I'll go back to my audio interface and I'll turn that knob down a little bit and adjust it. I'm just going to reset my peak level. Let's try again. The golden rule with audio levels is you want to get them as loud as you can without setting off that little red light, because then you'll be assured of good audio quality, but it's not distorting either. Right, I'm going to go back to my edit window now. Next thing we need is a click track. So if I go up to the track menu and go create click track, it's all set up for me. And down here I've got my transport window. If you don't have that, if yours is missing, go to Window, Transport, and we can see here that the tempo is currently 120. So if I hit play, that's what the tempo is going to be. If I want to change the tempo, I can just retype that number. So I'm going to type in 160. Perfect. Okay, now before we can hit record, there is one more thing we got to talk about, and that's monitoring. Monitoring is what you hear through your headphones, and if you don't get it right, it can have a big influence on how well you play. So when it comes to monitoring, there's two main things you need to get right. The first one is the volume coming through your headphones. You want to make sure you're comfortable with it. It's loud enough, but not too loud. So just go to your volume knob and adjust that to your liking. The second thing, and this is a bit more complicated, is something called latency. If you don't know what latency is, it's the amount of time it takes for the sound to go into the microphone, through the computer, and back out to your headphones. If you've got your latency buffer set too high, it can cause a delay effect so that when you hit your guitar, it comes back through your headphones a moment later, and it's very off-putting. It's almost impossible to play a take that way. So I'm going to show you how to adjust your latency settings in Pro Tools so that that doesn't happen to you. First of all, we go up to the Setup menu, Playback Engine. I've got my hardware buffer size set to 128 samples, which most people would agree is a reasonable setting. If you've got a pretty powerful computer, you can go lower than that, but it can run the risk of causing glitches and freezing while you're trying to record. If you go higher than 128 samples, you risk getting that delay effect that we talk about. So 128 is a good place to start. Now there is another option. Pro Tools has a mode called low latency monitoring, which we can find if we go to the options menu and go right down the bottom to low latency monitoring. What this does is it mutes the output from any record enabled tracks so that they don't come through your headphones anymore. And this relies on your audio interface having something called direct monitoring. So here's the direct monitoring feature on my audio interface. If I press this button, it sends the signals from my guitar lead and my microphone directly to my headphones. It doesn't go through Pro Tools at all, it goes straight to my headphones. When I click it once like that, it's in mono, that's stereo, and that's off. So I'm going to stick with mono for now, that's fine for what we're doing. Of course, Pro Tools is still recording the inputs, but I'm not hearing those inputs from Pro Tools. I'm hearing them directly through the interface. The only downside for doing this is that if I wanted to be able to hear reverb or EQ or any kinds of effects on my guitar while I'm recording, I can't do it through direct monitoring because I can only hear the direct signal coming from the mic or the guitar lead. If I go through Pro Tools, I can hear those effects if I want them. For today, I'm going to turn direct monitoring off, and I'm going to disable low latency monitoring because I'm happy just to record the normal way through my computer. Well, we're ready to go now. I'm going to hit the record enable button on my transport, which is this square one here, and then I'm going to hit the play button. I'll wait 2 bars and then I'll start playing. A good tip for beginners is to let your last chord ring out much longer than you think it should, because when you're mixing later, you'll realize that you really do need a long tail on that last chord so that you can do a proper fade out. Another quick tip for you is that if you need to adjust the level between your microphone, the guitar lead, and the click track, go over to the mix window and you can just simply adjust these levels to your taste. That way, if you need more click or less click or something's not right, you can adjust it all there and it'll sound the way you want it in your headphones. Well, that's it for this tutorial video. Now you know how to record an acoustic guitar into Pro Tools using a guitar lead and a microphone at the same time. However, if you want to know how to mix an acoustic guitar, or if you want to know how to record multiple takes of your performances in Pro Tools, click the links in the description below for more videos on those topics. As always, if you want to learn how to make music, record music, and build musical stuff, start now by hitting the subscribe button and clicking on the bell so that you don't miss anything. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.